What About Vietnam? A podcast with Gary Newsom. The series where Curry talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Ciao and welcome to What About Vietnam. So I always want to make sure that I deliver on this show always something different. And one of the things that I feel is really coming up for Vietnam, and that is it becoming a wedding destination. Now, I know not all of us are getting married tomorrow, but sometimes amongst our friends and families, etc., we know people who are thinking of their wedding, their future wedding, and they're in that planning mode, looking for ideas. And something I wanted to share with you is that Vietnam is becoming a very idyllic wedding destination. So I've asked this lovely girl named Jenny. She is a wedding planner based in Hanoi in Vietnam. She's been involved with weddings for a bit over 10 years now as a wedding planner, starting off her career really behind the camera and putting together some of the photography and the sessions for the bride and groom to make sure that their albums look absolutely fantastic. So that was her humble beginnings, and that's kind of when she decided that, she was good at organisation and she had good event planning skills, so she would take it to the next level. And she started her career in beautiful places like Koh Samui, Bali, Jakarta, other places in Southeast Asia, but came back to really build it in Vietnam. So she's going to talk to you very openly and honestly about some of the aspects, some of the crazy things she gets asked, and she says the crazier the better. She said they are always the most memorable. Managing people's expectations, of course, is a very big part of this role. So having a good team behind her and a good team that understands some of the nuances of Vietnam in just its destinations, the time of year, some of the legalities around that, and then travel arrangements. Because obviously with a wedding party, you've got, at least two people coming, possibly more as in family. And then, you may have guests that you want to include. So it can be managing a bigger event. She's got some great stories to share. I know you're going to love it. And please share with your friends and family who are thinking about getting married, because I'm sure a wedding in Vietnam would be something super duper and something wonderful to remember for the rest of your life. So please welcome Jenny to the program. Whilst I think being a wedding planner must be a super fun thing to do, I can imagine there's a lot to that job. Like, you have to cover a lot of people. I mean, people are a bit emotional about weddings, and they have very particular ideas maybe in their heads about what they think they want it to be like, and there's kind of all of that going on, and you have to manage that. So I kind of think, what got you interested in becoming a wedding planner?
I think that it wasn't easy at first, because I think it went all back to 2010 when I was working part-time in a wedding video and photography studio, and my job was to take care of the client requests regarding to their decoration, the attire, the flower setup, the poses before and during the shooting day. So in short, I made sure that everything looked good in the picture. So it was this wedding where the bride specific asked me to monitor her wedding venue the night before her wedding. So I feel the need to add it right here is that I wasn't a wedding planner. I was a student working part-time in the studio, and the studio back then did mostly engagement photo shoot. So my job was like very simple. That was the first time ever that I had to take care of a wedding venue. So the situation is that her wedding happened the next morning while the venue was fully occupied the night before by another wedding. So we had to wait for the party to be over. They clean up everything so the decoration team can bring her flowers.
Good old J-Lo.
And it happened after midnight. So I think it was a good idea for a bride who came to come all the way to the wedding venue at midnight the night before her wedding day to check on it. So I agreed to do it for her. But then I think by midnight or by 2 a.m. she appears anyway because she couldn't rest her head. She couldn't sleep. She must come by and see for herself. And because I was just a photographer assistant, she knew that she couldn't just hand over the wedding to me. And remember that it was in 2010, decades ago, right? When wedding planner didn't even exist in Vietnam. Event planner or wedding planner wasn't a popular profession. So that moment when I realized that her nails wasn't done, her hair was like messy hair, and her eye were puffy, it came to my mind that there must be someone who walked through the planning process with them in their shoes, right? Who understand why they do things, why they want thing in a specific way, and what need to be done in what way on time. It's like a walking, planning sheet, right? For me, because I didn't even heard of the word event planner before or wedding planner before, and thanks to J-Lo and her very. I couldn't say that it was a good movie, but it was a first movie ever talking about the wedding planner. Every wedding planner can ever.
Good old J-Lo. There's a couple of things that I got out of, what you've said, in the fact that sometimes your chosen profession in some ways chooses you rather than you choosing it. And you find yourself having a moment where you go, well, I'm good at organizing. I'm good at putting things together. I care about people and I like to see them have a good experience. So, when people that I've met in the travel industry that are event planners, some of those event management companies have then decided to specialize in weddings because, it's an event. It's a major event. But what adds an extra level of complexity to a wedding planner in Vietnam when you are selling your skills or offering your skills to foreigners is you are not only planning their wedding, as in the two persons that are key, the groom and the bride, but you are also managing the travel aspects of the wedding and all the people in the wedding party and sometimes many of the guests. So it has a couple of extra layers of complexity to it. And why I wanted to have you on the show, Jenny, is I believe Vietnam is growing in this area of becoming a wedding destination. And I think it deserves some exposure to the rest of the world. And my audience for this show is global. So, I've got people in my audience that are sitting in Canada, in the US, in Europe, in Australia, and Vietnam, I might add. But I don't know whether or not they would think initially of Vietnam as a destination for a wedding. So having you on and talking about your experiences, I think is going to give people some extra insight into Vietnam getting on the radar for people as a destination for a wedding. So on that vein, why do you think Vietnam is an ideal destination? Now, you and I talked before the show about Bali and Thailand and all those other countries that, are possibly 20 years ahead. Why is Vietnam a really great place to come to for a wedding?
I will not oversell my country right here, but I love Vietnam so much. I'm very proud to be a Vietnamese in every way. I have to add it here that I started my career as a destination wedding planner in Thailand, Koh Samui to be exact. And everyone who listening to the podcast know about Koh Samui, you know that it's a wedding heaven where thousands of couples travel to the island every year to get married and to party, to have their honeymoon. So I've been in one of the most busiest wedding destination in all over Southeast Asia. I've been to Bali as well. I traveled to Korea to see how the wedding industry is developed, how developed it is over there. And also Jakarta, where the biggest wedding fair happens every year. And I can see there are several elements for couples to choose a destination for their weddings. Vietnam has the advantage of having 3 UNESCO heritage. And since we are very long in our shape, so we have very different. So we have different landscape, we have different climates. Up in the north, you can have mountains with European-like weather. If you don't want to get your guests to sweat over their dress, you can bring them to the north where the mountain is beautiful. If you love the beach and you love you are spot lovers and all your guests are really like to have a warm bath every day, beside the wedding days, you can just travel to the south of Vietnam. And one thing about having a very diverse topography is that you have a very diverse cuisine as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is about the flavor climate, where you can have, you can save and sound have your wedding outdoor at least 9 months out of 12 months of the year. I think the third element would be availability. So no matter how beautiful or famous the landscaping is, the lack of services needed for the wedding will be a big obstacle in organizing process. And Vietnam is one of the 10 fastest growing economy I believe in all over the world. So service ability is guaranteed in this year or the next 5-10 years. We have connectivity to put on the table as well. It's about how easy you and your loved one can, travel to the place. Normally in a city wedding, you don't have to worry about, you don't have to figure out how you get there. But for a destination wedding, I think connectivity is very important, right? And of course, there will be the popularity of the place. I know that Vietnam is not that popular. Like in Thailand or Bali, we couldn't say for now that Vietnam is the top choice of wedding destination, right? I really wish that I could invite Leonardo DiCaprio star in the beach remake movie in Vietnam, because even though he's old now, he still got his charm, right? We actually have King Kong, the Skull Island movie shot in the north of Vietnam a few years ago, but compared to 20 years old Leonardo, I think that Thailand has advantage of 20 years ahead because they have the beach, and Leonardo star in that movies that got the Gulf of Thailand was so famous like 2 decades ago. If you can hear me, Leonardo, please come to Vietnam. And then I think the competitive costs in terms of the beneficial rates for foreigners to have their weddings in Vietnam, the stability of the currency, and the average cost of the service will be one very important element for couples to look at when they compare destinations.
So, Jenny, where do most of your guests come from? So, where do your brides and grooms originally come to you? Do they come to you more locally, or are they coming from overseas countries?
So before COVID, 60% of my clients come from the Australia, the US, and the Russia. Mostly, they are mixed couple who are Vietnamese married to a foreigner, or people with Western background, people who live abroad, or they have, maybe they study abroad and they kind of like get very close to the Western wedding traditions, and they want to do things differently in Vietnam. There's just something about the people who choose to wed the non-traditional way. Most of the couples who choose Vietnam because they have seen their friends posting their wedding or honeymoon pictures in wedding heavens like Phuket, Samui, Bali before, and they want to keep an eye out for a novel tropical wedding destination, and they think that Vietnam is really worth exploring. And I want them to know that it's possible. It should be easy possible to bring your families and your friends here from half around the world to a tropical country and have your celebration there.
And I think that's a really good thing. I mean, when you're talking about a couple and them sitting down together to plan a wedding, obviously they're going to be tossing around lots of different options. But I think if they are creative people, if they're people that want to do something a little bit different, I know I have spoken to another wedding planner that was doing some work. This is before COVID, and I think you know her, Nadine. And she was saying that, people who do decide to have a wedding in another country are very open to, new ideas. They're very creative. They're kind of looking for something special and something unique, and they also want to make it very special for their guests. So sometimes, families are meeting each other for the first time. Sometimes friends, the husband's friends don't know all the wife's, the bride's friends. So there's a really big coming together. And I think that, opens up lots of different experiences to have in Vietnam. As you said, on the beach, in the highlands of North Vietnam, there's just so many different experiences. And in my time in traveling back and forth to Vietnam, I have very often run into, a group of guys that are celebrating the pre-wedding bachelor party, and, they're having a lot of fun. I've caught up with some girls that are over there the week before, and they're getting their dresses finished and being made and tailored in Vietnam as the bridesmaids. Talk to us a little bit about some of the strange requests that you get from these brides and grooms. Does anything stand out as wacky ideas? Like
the question always bring back good memories. And since you've been mentioned, you have mentioned Nadine, I just really missed the time where Nadine was actually one of the first wedding planners, foreign wedding planner in Vietnam that do weddings for foreigner couples, and she's pioneer in inserting Vietnamese wedding features into foreigner weddings that make it a mixed wedding where your guests travel 1,000 miles to the wedding and then see and experience a new culture. So I think it's very very unique, and that's the thing that I learned from Nadine as well. And that's the philosophy that I try to work with my destination wedding clients too. And going back to your questions, do I have any strange requests? I have strange requests all the time. I have couples who paraglide from a cliff to their ceremony. I have a couple who, free rock climb to their ceremony on top of a mountain in a bay.
Wow.
And I also just did a cruise wedding in Ha Long Bay, one of the 3 UNESCO heritage that I mentioned before. So I just did a cruise wedding there. And every wedding is uniquely designed for the couples. And I try to guarantee a novel first-hand experience, because wedding is social event. It's somehow a social event where you still have to impress and take care of your guests, but it's so personal on so many levels, which make it very distinctive from other type of events. And I have been doing weddings for 10 years now, and it's safe to say that nothing actually can surprise me anymore, unless our beloved audience right here who are listening to this podcast and maybe come up with a more wacky, crazy idea. I would love to hear them, because there's so many possibilities that we can do it together in Vietnam.
And I think you're right. I think there is so many different possibilities. I mean, when I interviewed Nadine, and this is all kind of early stages of COVID, she was still getting inquiries, because at that stage we didn't really know what COVID was going to do or how long it was going to last. If you were to talk about like actual destinations, as in, what are some of the best wedding destinations in Vietnam? So you mentioned in the Highlands, we've talked about Hoi An. I've seen people that have had weddings in caves in Vietnam, like all sorts of places. What's your thoughts there?
Oh, I would love to share you the cave wedding that I did combined with a cruise wedding. So they have a cruise wedding, and we have a cave that can be registered and used for wedding during sunset time. So the idea was to bring the whole family onto a cruise, and then by the sunset time we have smaller boats, bringing them to this island, and so they walk 500 meters through a beautiful natural cave to a very white powder beach, and where the flowers arch is set up, and the couple is waiting for them. Is very beautiful and emotional for the guests, because even in Vietnam they don't even know that they can experience something like that. So to say the best places in Vietnam to have the actual wedding, I have so many names in my head right now. It really depends on which elements you prioritize, because if you look for something super fun, a beach city that is gives you the Thailand vibe, you can go to Phu Quoc Island, the very southern island of Vietnam, where it's getting promoted to be the tourist heaven. Thinking about the Genting Highland in Malaysia. Phu Quoc is, how to say, developed in the same way. But if you look for something more natural, more relaxed and laid back, we have big cities and islands to choose from. If you are very keen on having something unique, there's so many places that we can actually do it. Like Nadine was so smart when she picked Hoi An, because the lovely old town gives you everything you need. It's just near the beach, and it had a very diverse culture background.
And you're right. I think Hoi An, I know from just my limited experience, because you've got the old town setting.
You're not limited at all.
And you've got, like, you know, it's just such a beautiful place also for your photography. And, you know, you've also
Exactly.
got the beach at Ang Bang, so you can do something on the beach there. So you can really mix it up in your photos. And that's where I've actually bumped into most of the pre-wedding or post-wedding celebrations. Do you want to tell your story now about the hangover story? I thought that was hilarious. I think you should add that in now.
That was crazy. That's hilarious. So, yeah, as a wedding planner and then a destination wedding planner, I believe that 50% of a wedding, 50% of a destination wedding is the destination where I take care of the travels of the guests, of the accommodation, transportation, and all the activity before and after the weddings with families and friends coming together. And so this is one story that I remember for the rest of my life, because what we say, reality is stranger than fiction, right? And I watch movies like Hangover all the time, and in the movie we have bachelor parties that went crazy, someone's missing, lost their tooth, having a baby in their bathroom. We think that it's just movies. We think that it's just movies. But then it was from my experience that I have a groom that disappeared the morning before the wedding day. They went to a bachelor party the night before, and got reported that they went back to the hotel by 4 a.m. But by 10 a.m., where the bride came into the room and looked for the groom, he wasn't there. And then nobody knows where he went. The groomsmen confirmed that they all left the bar together. Even the bar confirmed through CCTV that they left, and he just gone. So everyone's just like freaked out. We rushed to the beach. We file a police report. You can tell that it's chaos. Like, it's not like runaway. It's not a runaway bride movies. They love each other, and he can't wait to get married to her. So it couldn't be a chance that he ran away. And then I think just like half an hour later, when one of the resort staff found him on the beach around a few hundred meters away from the resort, and in the condition that he was half naked. He was wearing a tutu, it's a ballet dancer dress skirt, and he was sleeping like a baby and safe and sound next to a beach dog. And nobody had a clue why he got there. He didn't have a clue why he got there. Then he was like suffer from the heat of the sun. So just like the movie, just like the Hangover movies. And that's where I got the idea that reality is sometimes stranger than fiction, because it's just out of my mind for a wedding planner, for a junior wedding planner like me to have encountered a situation like that. But every wedding has a grain of craziness in it. And if you look at it as a memorable memories, it's going to be beautiful, and you can laugh about it for the rest of your life. And if you look at it as a flaw, or, the pressure of perfection, if you think that your wedding is going to be the way you wanted it, I can confirm that you are going to be very shocked that is not going to happen.
And you're right. That's just being human. And, I know some brides turn into bridezillas. I had this conversation with Nadine as well. And I think, there is that level that everybody wants it to be perfect. absolutely perfect. But actually some of the gems to come out of a wedding is when things don't go exactly as they should. They're the memories that everybody kind of can relate to and laughs about. They pick up the photos later, and they're the ones that take you into the future, and you'll never get that time back again, and nor should you. So just in wrapping up, Jenny, do you have any hints or tips or anything you'd like to share with my guests listening who are thinking about Vietnam as a wedding destination? Do you have anything you'd like to share to them that can, help them plan and make this decision?
Even if I say to you now that Vietnam is on the rise as a new wedding destination, we still have some disadvantage. I wouldn't say disadvantage, but then compared to other wedding heavens, where you have to do everything very novel. So the first thing that you should watch out is that Vietnam is a very cost-effective destination, but cost-effective is not equal to cheap. Right, we have to look at things. We have to look at your destination wedding as a travel holiday experience. And if you can compare the price to having a holiday in your country and in Vietnam, then it would be more competitive.
Yes.
But then if you compare the cost in Vietnam to other well-established wedding heavens in the same area, then it might not look that inviting to you. But I can guarantee you that with the services developing in Vietnam right now, and the image of Vietnam will be way promoted into a developing, more modern and well established with a great sense of service in the future.
And I think where we're going with this is that, countries like Thailand and Indonesia and Bali, etc., they have been marketing those destinations for many, many years. So they're way ahead in the marketing of those countries as wedding destinations. They're featured in travel magazines around the world, etc. So with that comes some knowledge, obviously, that they really know their stuff. They really have set venues and they really down pat. But that also means that when you're looking at those destinations, you're probably looking at those destinations with thousands of others. So you've got the disadvantage of, maybe having to book way more in advance, and you've got to queue up and, there's applicable prices, etc. Where what I like about Vietnam and what I'm delighted to talk to you about is that, Vietnam is in the developmental stage of this. So you can get to be maybe a little bit more creative. I think, you're going to get a little bit more originality. Maybe there will be some things that are not exactly perfect, but planning for the unexpected, I think, should be part of any wedding plan that I've ever been involved in anyway. And they are the star moments that you get to hold on and share down the track and have a good laugh about. And I think cost-wise, it's a really good thing to bring up, because sometimes I think Vietnam gets thought about, or there's the perspective that everything's cheap, that everything you buy in Vietnam is cheap, or it's a copy, or it's a fake, or, there's some of that, and this comes up on my podcast a lot. And I really want to try and dispel that everything is cheap. Sure, you get great value. That's a different way of saying cheap. It's not cheap. I'm saying you get really good value for your money. And I think it is very competitive. So in the Southeast Asian region, Vietnam is coming up as a wedding destination because of all those factors. You've got 3,800 kilometres of beachside. You've got the variance of weather. So if you want a cooler, and see, that's another thing. People don't even think about Vietnam as having cold weather. Let me assure you, in the north, it's freezing in January.
It's freezing.
Absolutely. January, February, you could be wearing a fur coat to your wedding. So I think, the variables available make it extremely attractive. I mean, who would have thought that you'd be skydiving or, landing on your wedding destination that way? Well, that's where the originality comes in. And I think, when you take that care, and I really love hearing that you want to make that experience really special for them, because I think Vietnamese have a really great way of showing, really good service. Like I can't think of too many places that would be running around beaches trying to find the guy that was asleep with the dog on the beach. A lot of them would just say, oh, well, he'll have to just find his way to the wedding, where I know that there would be staff at the hotel. You and your staff would be also running around trying to find him to get him back in time for the actual event.
In
So
that situation. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's lovely.
I can just imagine.
Thank you for putting the word. I really appreciate it. For me, it's like Vietnam is, I think, kind of a novel experience, and that paying for experience is not cheap. But then, due to the all the advantages that Vietnam is having, we are growing economy. We are learning from Thailand and other tourism destination, and we try to promote our country. There is possibilities where you can have your experience here at a very affordable cost, and you will be one of the many first one who see Vietnam as and have your wedding in Vietnam amongst your friends, and have a very novel taste of it.
Absolutely.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Since the nature of travel to Vietnam is a bit more complex than in Thailand, in Bali, make sure that if you are planning your wedding in Vietnam, you get in touch with a wedding planner who have the experience in travel, or at least that having experience in marrying couples, foreigner couples in Vietnam, because the papers and also the transportation will be a little bit more complex than others. So you want to make sure that you and your guests will be comfortable and relaxed when they come to the wedding. So make sure that you book a wedding planner with experience in those criteria. Or if your wedding planner don't have it, then try to find a tour agency that took care of the travel for you. That way it helps you take loss of your shoulder, and you 100% just enjoy the wedding in our beautiful country.
I agree totally. Having the travel experience and knowledge to, just simple things like meeting the person at the airport for pickups and drop-offs at the hotel, just so that those kind of things go smoothly, because, they can easily go off the rails. Okay, Jenny, thank you for being on the program. I'm really glad you were able to come on and talk about weddings, and hope to be talking again soon.
Thank you, Carrie, for inviting me, and I really hope that we can see more and more couples hearing this podcast, sharing it with their friends and family, since Carrie's podcast channels is very helpful for not people who want to get married in Vietnam, but people who are curious about our country and our culture, have planning their holiday here. It also could be very useful for you too. So thank you, Carrie, for that as well.
That's my pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?